right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Then and Now program. Today on the platform, we get a very special guest. And this guest, now people, now possibly una know, una don't hear it, probably the best thing we can say, some people are not attach a face to the name or to the voice, or vice versa, because a lot of stuff that way they do on social media is largely audio, make some great audios and just send them out there for reach the masses. So as soon as I can see today, we want to talk about criticism. When I see the subject matter, we want to talk about criticism. We want to talk about a critique. We want to talk about the critique in QUE and the critique as in TIC and being critical. A little bit of teaching, a little bit of lecture, but all coming from a conversation between me and the guest. The guest is known as Mr. Kabia, and that's why I like for call him, and he get this massive program where they call the Kabia Factor. Because without trying for speculate on anything, both my first question what I go and go with, but just before I go with him, let give the man chance, let he explain himself. Or not explain himself, but rather introduce himself. Mr. Kabia, tell Fambulem good evening and who that you be, please, for the benefit of all.
Yeah, Fambulem, good evening. This now Mr. Kabia. Sorry for the late. And we'll get some serious challenges them. But me now, Mr. John Kabia, and I'm making present the Kabia Factor. The Kabia Factor basically now a sensitization program, now a critique program we have been launched, and now program basically we get for do politics, get for do the economy. So it's about sensitization. Me now, Mr. Kabia, the Kabia Factor.
So Fabula, una don't hear for una self, Mr. Kabia, you get a lot of noise in your background. You get people that we very happy being you there now for telling you let them quiet and don't let Fambula where you because this program you all over the world and get for you all over the world. Fambula and una let we help for shape this program. This now the Mr. Kabia of the Kabia Factor we can do their analysis them and go out there. So if we watch the subject matter, and I make us say we want to do a little bit of teaching because we want to talk about the differences between for criticism where people like you offer critique as in QUE and critique as in TIC and then being critical. There's a difference between all of these massive words and we want to talk about them just quickly before we go into the body of the show. So in other words, I want to create this JPEG or pinstripe moment. So here is the thing. We not say for criticize. When you criticize something, there's a reason why we outline them as such, because there is a lot of talking going on in which, including myself, I am a heavy critic. I'm a heavy critic of the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone. Okay? So we need to understand all them balances there. So it's not only the Kabia Factor. So when you criticize something, what you do is that you identify the fault. Not forget this. When we criticize something, or when we criticize something, because not everybody, because we can get interchangeably wrong. But when you criticize something, now because you identify the fault, the negative aspect of that particular thing, then you observe. So when you say, like for example, the president fly London for can attend a virtual summit means you not be need for London. You got to ask yourself whether now the negative fault na in you they look at. That now from the point of view of for criticize. Whereas if you offer a criticism, okay, where now the action word, where now the verb referring to the same thing normal, like where you identify the fault. The president fly London. And the reason why I keep they make the emphasis, because in my opening question to Mr. Kabia, and I hope say he listen well. The president fly London, where it not be need for Kanto, and then you identify the reasons why. As opposed to being a critique, than the one with the QUE. This word can also serve in two different forms. I mean, they talk about parts of speech, articles. So either a noun or a verb. Who's calling, man? I'm live. Yeah, sorry, calls keep coming in, and I believe say people that want to participate in this earlier time, but no, we've got a guest. So just quickly, so you use them for evaluate and analyze something where me think say I like for do. evaluate and analyze something. Because like the story about the president coming to London on this GPE education conference, I have broke the story. As soon as the communique come out or the press release come out, the president in come one, go to home office, look up this GPE and waiting begin for come out, I immediately put word out there in terms of a supposedly virtual meeting. If people that look at me, initial text was saying, I was being measured and careful. And this is why I call myself a critique, the one with the QUE, because what they do, I either use them in the verb or in the noun form, and that is I evaluate, I analyze something, I identify both the good points and the bad points. This is the kind of criticism I offer. Mr. Kabia, with this last thing what I talk about in terms of a critique, where do you really stand in terms of your criticism, the way you can offer, your analysis, the way you can offer on your tape?
Well, it is both sides. Sometimes I can critique, like you explain them, and sometimes I can criticize. But most times I can do both. It depends what it is at the floor. Like in the case of President Bio taking a private jet, going to London, on watching me feel say we get an ambassador in London, we get the Minister of Education, Deputy Minister. I feel say anything we get for do with that education, people then the president don't need for travel. Using taxpayers' money, because I know say when the president travel, a much different, a much be saying a larger entourage than just the minister they go up and then issues the day. So I feel saying a duplication of priorities on the side of the president, because the meeting now about education. You see, so I feel say not to the right of the president for take taxpayers' money, charter a flight, go to London, and for go talk about education, where the minister did it, and then we get a sitting ambassador in London. So I just believe the president not prudent enough for understand the severity of we present economy right now. Sierra Leone, I can tell you, are then at the ground, and I very much know see what you are the talking pertinent to watching with the experience, right now. The economy in Sierra Leone is in a fiscal cliff. And I believe partly what is responsible now because of we not get a sound fiscal policy on the side of the government. And from the time where President Yu came to power, now some of the things that we are done heavily, be very, very critical about this administration kind of spending. President Bio, now the president we don't travel than any other sitting president in the world. And I believe not to fund, because anytime the president leave the country on certain assignments, they will feel we don't establish diplomatic relationship with some of the countries then we President Bio do. And sometimes what the president actually go achieve. When I look at this particular meeting in London, I'm in two ways. I look at the cost of going there and the necessity of a president for go to the meeting and the way we get a minister of education, a deputy minister of education. There is no need for taking wealth, for taking Pekin, for take the nanny, for take other members them, we swell up to almost 10 dignitaries them from Sierra Leone, we attend that meeting. So I believe that's not prudent on the side of the president. And some of the things have been talk. And some of the things they are not just talking them, but also don't impact we negatively in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone na a country right now described as, a failed state technically, because we get so many challenges on our economy. You see, so I believe that particular trip day on the side of the president, prudent.
So okay, Mr. Kabia, I think you've said a lot, and it seems like we go to the trip not being prudent, but it sounds very much more like an opinion based. The question I want to ask you directly about that again is, Like I say, SFF tweets about the president as soon as I understand the first issue we come in. But I was measured and I left space. Now that we get the benefit of hindsight, the president we now know, we don't get a lot of the story, was invited by the UK government. And I also hear you talk about in family where you they try for attributes to being something like wasteful. Why in need for bringing wealth? Why in need for bring the picking and bring the nanny? But once you don't bring one, two, you get for bring the other. Somebody get for look after the children. And we are talking about the president. Don't you think, with the benefit of hindsight, I don't know whether you follow the story, that it's not only about the GPE conference, but there were other things attached as well. And this is the president of the country. He will need to travel. And when he travel, he need a delegation. And you can get people that were necessary to the delegation, such as the Minister of Education, like you say, the foreign minister. They have to be a part of the trip. But then the president has to also be in a good state of mind. And if now in wife, now they make that provision there for him, then the wife also needs to be there. Don't you have second thoughts now, sir? Since
You
all
see,
of them,
no, my brother, it's the necessity on the ground. You see, sometimes when people then they make assumption or starting things they happen and people then they jump into conclusion. Sierra Leone, na the poorest country in Africa. We economy day na life support. As I can tell you right now, the basic commodities of this country are skyrocketing every day. We know they look at, say, the president was invited. Of course, we know, say, the president was invited. But what if the president could have looked at it this way? Based on the necessity on the ground, based on the prevailing economic crisis we get now, couldn't I have been prudent on the side of the president or decline on that meeting day, or probably for just saying the Minister of Education? Because I believe, say, even though people they tell you, say, they invite the president, but let us go back to the cost of who is putting the cost of the trip. Now the UK government, they foot the trip.
So I think, Mr. Kabia, that's a good question. But that question goes back to you because part of the case, as I understand that you try for make, is based on them prudential principles there, accountability and transparency and understanding the context, the bigger picture of the state of the economy of the country itself. Have you done your due diligence for understand who that foot the bill, who that hire the flight? Have you done your due diligence before you come out here? And
you see, and some of the things is what they talk. Sometimes the president and the administration can be so much mute in certain things that they particularly we get for do about cost. We get for do about the travel cost of the president. I remember the trip the president take now Lebanon. At the initial stage, the government, the administration be so mute on the cost. In fact, they not even come out to the people and tell the people the nation say the president they go on medical checkup or the president they go on vacation. They not be tell the nation. So sometimes these are some of the challenges of this administration. Into so many times the administration not they do justice to the people.
So, okay, Mr. Kabia, forgive me for budging in because you make quite an important point, but I definitely want to draw a correlation. I do agree with you that the Lebanese trip was a bungle one, was an error, again, based on waiting we learn later. We may suspect this and based on waiting we learn later. But are you trying to compare the two between the Lebanese trip and this particular trip? Is that something that you're trying to equate?
I will do that because I go tell you, Nancy, I don't even try for contact somebody in the State House for make we get a clarity on who is putting the bill on this particular trip. Remember, the president jet in London with a private jet. That is not a public jet, not a public flight. It's a private jet. So we want to know, is it the British government go charter a flight and tell the president, say, we are inviting you to come talk about, education, the global education at in London. And when you look at the possibility, you go see, say, the possibility is not even in existence. Britain not go do that. for charge a flight, say, okay, Mr. President, you are invited to talk about.
But you are speculating now, aren't you?
Yeah, this is speculation. And
yeah, so but it almost sounds like with the emphasis is like it's true that Britain not go do that, because I did feel
Britain not go do that. I know the British government. This is the taxpayers' money. Imagine, I can tell you, say, if you take a private flight from here to London, remember, say, that cost could be between $800,000 to $700,000. And remember, how can you just go for 2 days, as the meeting be alleged, and the British government ended up spending that amount of money to fly a Sierra Leone president, the poorest country in Africa, to come talk about education in London? What is even the likability? Say this is something going to happen. Let me tell you something. This is just the kind of government sometimes.
When you say, Mr. Kabia, what are the possibilities, if I get you right, that this is going to happen? What exactly you try for say? What is going to happen?
The possibility not even exist. Britain not go do that.
Or you mean for fly the president or write out the cost for in trip to London?
Yes, the British not go do that.
Well, okay, Mr. Kabia. Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Kabia. Make we go to that, because yes, you raised quite an important point. But let we not dwell on that. Say now Britain I underwrite the cost. The idea here is the government of the Republic of Sierra Leone is an independent government,
Yes.
invited by another government and part of the Commonwealth for attend a conference based on something we then supposed for gain from education. And one thing we need to understand is since the event of or advent of COVID-19, school business don't drop significantly globally. Millions and millions of children are cut out, left out of education. And this is what they are trying to put back on track, because for let the world develop and be the one nation that is supposed to be, the need for put education back on track. Hence why the British government spend millions of dollars along with the Kenyan government of Uhuru Kenyatta for initiate this GPE program and bring other countries them on board. And since we're a member of the nations or community of nations, we were invited. So we underwrite, let we accept, say we underwrite we own cost. A flight from Freetown private jet might cost about $20,000, $30,000. That's affordable, and this is the president. We don't look at the cost benefit because it's still early yet for let we draw conclusions. I'm sure we haven't, but you seem for the go along for already draw conclusions. Will that be fair to the government and the president?
I know they draw conclusion. Now the pattern of the president in reckless traveling. And I describe him reckless because this is the highest traveling president in the world. President Bio, this now the 82, if my memory serves me correct, I will go back to my diary, make a check and from the time we assume power, April 2018. I don't record up to 79 times where President Bio don't left this country. He is the highest traveling president in the world. It is this particular behavior that now he warrants me for make a talk about the president in reckless traveling. I believe say we don't need this particular thing. No matter what you will say, Britain not go right way off for making you a free flight for going to London. If you they spend $30,000 to $40,000, I can tell you it's even more than that. It's even more than that on this trip. This trip I go put on between $60,000 to $70,000.
What's not the basis? Well, you see the speculations.
It is not speculation. Now, based on watching, the government be the charge on the president in travel account. On trips them, where you get similar trips them where you don't attend. We don't look at the trip where you go to Russia. The president be spent up to $70,000 on that trip. So we get a pattern of this president in travel record where we don't get a consistent amount, 50 to 60,000, 60 to 70,000 on trips them where you don't take abroad. So enough we say this particular trip will be different from the trips that where the president don't take. And sometimes what he would try for look now the pattern of the president, and sometimes watching at the economic benefits on some of their trips that with the president they will take. Now they try for question. We not just.
So I think say, Mr. Kabia, you make a good point on that basis, there. But it will also be a good thing, that we exercise caution and wait, because some of these things, when government they operate, does not materialize overnight. Sometimes not even in the duration of that parliament. It can be long term, and sometimes it can be short term. I understand the anxiety, and I understand the pattern where you try for create, and I stand with you on some of them. For example, the Lebanese trip, I was heavily critical of that. What do we have with Lebanon? Why suddenly the visit? Why was the visit shrouded in secrecy? Why? What do you go do there? And then suddenly we hear about health, and then we hear about birthday or honeymoon activated. That was totally uncalled for, and that was reckless. But then we get the evidence for back that, and not on mere speculation. But I want to shift gear a little bit, Mr. Kabia, if you don't mind. So we talk a lot about these issues, which are good, especially from a civic point of view. We need for the have them conversation there. But once we can talk more about the problems, we don't talk about solutions. And I sure say, pan this short talk with me, you talk, I hear one or two things we sound like solutions, even though I not give chance for let you articulate them. What do you think we're supposed to do? Because we already know we know a lot of we problems. How are we supposed to pursue some of the solutions? And they talk about government-wise, like governance.
Let me tell you, my brother, Sierra Leone don't pay money. This is one of the richest countries on the planet in terms of natural resources. The consistent lack of vision, the visionary when we gained independence in 1961, what team were not able to get, the government, when Britain left, most of the president, they would take, as a matter of fact, the man will take the mantle of leadership after independence, an old man, when Samiti Magai. So from the time of Samiti Magai to today, we not get visionaries where they able to look at things them and try for make we know who side we need for invest and what you will not need for do as a country. Because of this country don't produce president them, we not get visionary. Now in the suffocate we today. I'll tell you something. When President Bio take power, we all be the field scene at the Eisenhower of the United States, the 34th president of the United States. Would they believe say that the Paul Kagame of Rwanda, based on the fact that this guy is from the military? I mean, they anticipate say Paul President Bio na the generalists of Ghana, we set the trajectory of development in Ghana today. Ghana's the problem we'll get now, one, we not get visionary leaders there. That's not the biggest problem we don't get now. And the second thing is, when you look at what it is suffocate this, particularly this President administration, President Bio administration. Now, two things them they can highlight now. We call on the fiscal policy and monetary policy of this administration. Now, don't create so many problems of this administration. President Bio can have power on the platform of a change because of the last 4 years of Anesby Nkrumah being seriously in dilemma economically. And so as a result, they even declare austerity measures. So we believe say APC was punished, and Nkrumah was punished because of the recklessness of new administration. So where President Bio can, will be the expected for be prudent. It may start so well on paper, but when we come to the implementation, we get serious problems. One, what did they do? The free quality education, the advice they say, it be too early. You cannot tell the nation, say you inherited the worst economy, and then you come out with the most expensive project. Education are the most expensive project in any part of the world. And so what Team President Bay do in order for make it accomplish the manifesto? He go into the economy. He remove all the tax waivers. He remove all the tax waivers. He skyrocket the tax system. And what he do when he skyrocket the tax system? What he don't get for do with the business community? He begins to suffocate the economy. Then the other problem with they grant all the mining companies there. That also puts a burden on the employment rate, because what did they do? They blame APC, all the mining contract, the way APC signed a flawed contract. I understand that, but you cannot negotiate on a position of weakness. When you grant all the mining sector, we advise the president, let the mining sectors they're in operational while they negotiate from a position of strength. So that in that way, it will keep the employees the way they way up to 1,000 to 1,500. Grounding the mining sector, you don't put a heavy burden on the unemployment rate. Number one. Number two, when you don't skyrocket the taxes, in order to get money, remove all the taxes, forget the money for fund education. What you also don't do, you don't put heavy burden on the economy. You don't put heavy burden on the importers and the investors. They don't scare even the investors. So what happened? Some of the companies then fall out, so they downsize. Now input a burden on the basic commodities that what you be supposed to be, because it want money for fund education. The first procurement where they make now about 94 billion. Now in the first the first money that where they first spend. So when we don't look at all the procurement where they don't make, now almost about 119 billion. Now they don't spend on procurement alone. And then President Bio they underestimate the damage of the educational system as a whole. Will be advise the president, in fact, the implementation will be too early. You have to be in power at least 2 years so that you will get a forensic investigation what the education actually need before he gets into that. President Kabia do a very good job. What he do? He isolates certain sectors, like the female. We girls education as a loaner, he did down. So what he do? Everybody where they go na science, when a girl became he give a scholarship. So he target vulnerable groups. But if you come, he make a holistic, free. But then there is no money. Now he make even when they go na BBC. I remember that interview. They ask her, where are you going to get the money? He said,
okay, Mr. Kabia. There's a lot said there, and it does make a lot of sense. But what about the intent? Because sometimes you need to look at the intent. I'm a policy man, for example, and part of the conversation we're supposed to forget tonight or that we're having tonight is based on policy, because even education, what you talk about, is a policy. So it's a consequence of policy failure in terms of the methodology. So, but I want to ask you, what are your overview of the president? In other words, how you see President Bio? And the reason why they ask you this, now in context of what you just say. So some of the actions where the president take, it sound like a reckless, but was it done in good faith? Yes, it spent over 20% of the economy on education alone, which is good. But members say with foreign donors and partners, then commend her for that because that's a good thing. But you can separate that from the methodology, which doesn't seem to be working, and you don't expect them for work in a 5-year parliament. So the intent, hence why they ask you, what's your overall view about the current president?
Well, the president probably, I use the word probability there because when it comes now to President Bio today in government, it's different from what you see prior to him assuming power. We know say President Bio is not an established politician. He's from the barracks. We understand that. But we expect a get caliber based on the discipline which I come out for make it provide a good presidency.
Yeah, but Mr. Kabia, with all due respect, sir, the president left the barracks some 20-some more years ago. And yes, even though you not go perfect the arts na an institution, but you go say even they outside, they monitor and they watch and they study the politics, the nature of the politics, and then one day when they run the politics. And he went into town and beat the people that have been run the politics. That's an achievement, it's an accomplishment, isn't it?
Yes, that's an accomplishment. But one thing I tell you, there's a difference between a candidate and a president. And there's also a difference between a manifesto and when it comes to what you would call implementation. The whole problem here about the Bio administration is on the implementation. Then get it wrong on the implementation. You might have the good faith to make a holistic, free and quality education. But again, if you refuse to understand what you are getting into, the severity of the damage, President Bio could have hired professionals, for making them do a forensic investigation so that they go understand the severity of what he would need for fix the the educational system.
You're not accusing the president. You're not accusing the president in any shape or form that they did not do that.
I'm not accusing him. In fact, what happened here? The president failed to understand. You see, what he get into. These are some of the things what they try to tell you. And because how I know say he failed to understand, because of the implementation, now we get a serious challenge on the so-called free quality education. We get a serious challenge. Now let me tell you something. The president team up the parliament and say we get about 27 million, 2,700 picking them across the country where they can benefit on the free and quality education. Now, it will interest you today, when it comes to the subsidy, for provide subsidy to the schools, we're supposed for benefit on this free quality education, then they fall short. Now you get 27 million people, but who are the benefits? Sometimes out of the 27 million, you're not able to get even 21 million where they benefit on the subsidy. So when it comes to the implementation, now a fiasco.
Okay.
Now you get schools them up to today as I'm speaking to you. Schools and then even the school where they are AYB, where they're very close to State House, they're not even getting a your subsidy as I'm speaking to you.
Okay, Mr. Kabia, many thanks, and Fambulema bring warm greetings to Una from the Denena Media Empire. This now Una host and presenter Prince Emil Koma. They come to Una live today. The 30th of July 2021 is a Friday evening in UK, so they talk from, and I talk to a very special guest, a guest where most of Una know or will come for know. This is a man called Mr. Kabia. We can always do analysis on the Kabia factor, and we talk about being a critique. You will criticize, criticism, critique as in TIC, critique as in QUE. Mr. Kabia, I want to bring this back to you. You see, I want to bring you come back to the subject matter, which is about these 3-4 things that we talk about. But I want to zoom in on the particular one we talk about critique with the QUE, because I want to pose a question on that basis there. But I'll develop something quickly. So when we talk about critique, here in terms of the QEE, we talk about the action word. It's more action in terms of all and what they talk about. So if you not critique, you they offer a real evaluation and you they analyze something which is based both, we talk about them from the beginning. And there's a reason why they try for re-emphasize them. So they identify both the good points and the bad points. But so far you seem for to identify the bad points in terms of the president in policy on education. So let me put this to you, Mr. Kabia. So I want let we look at the president's intent, because it doesn't seem selfish. It might seem political, anyone for achieve something, but we get for look at the net benefactor. So it might not be going right, but shall we look at the intent behind the president in motivation for bring this free and quality education? Yes, I agree with you, the methodology, and we don't expect them for work overnight, not as critical as a problem of that nature is. But have you thought about the negatives and the positives and at least try for share some kind of kind sentiment with the president about the intent?
I thank you very much for that question, a very important question. Nobody no go downplay the importance of President Bio announcing to the nation, say, in flagship program is free and quality education. That's a laudable idea and a blueprint. And every Sierra Leonean commend them for that. So if I tell you, say, I tell you, say, the holistic picture of this free quality education are just negative, then I not do justice to the president. I not do justice to myself. The president gets a goodwill for making even think about, see, Sierra Leone, I can tell you, we get a population almost 75% functionally illiterate. And as some of the challenges that we this country are getting. So I very much agree with the president for making come with that flagship program, for making pinpoint the fact, say, we need to do, something on education. I agree with that. And I also agree with him on the, the idea where he bring some professionals, them like Alpha Timo, where I would say a professional, and the present Minister of Education are also, although a prosthetic leg specialist, I would say, but he don't do well on terms of bringing technology to education. I could commend that as well. But when you look at the challenges today facing the administration on this same free quality education could have been avoided. Now, because you fail on the implementation, you have to drag cost, unnecessary cost. These are some of the things that we try for talk. If you could have done the right thing, maybe what you are going through now, the cost, the challenges you are facing could have been avoided. These are some of the things that we try for saying.
Okay.
The president gets a laudable idea. He don't bring something where he don't tap into things that were very sensitive, where Sierra Leone don't lack for far too long. But again, if you not do a kind of an introspective understanding into what thing you get into, what you suppose for avoid, the cost now don't double or maybe don't triple because we not put the proper tools, we not get the proper infrastructure in place for make we go into this particular educational system. Look, I could have expected the president. I advised, I sent an audio advising the president for.
So that was going to be my question anyway, Mr. Kabia, which I'd like for you address quickly in 30 seconds. If you had the opportunity for stand before the president, knowing what you know now, yesterday, today, and going before, what exactly will you tell the president on this particular issue in terms of the education policy, etc.?
I will tell the president for take a step back on this pre-quality education and hire professionals so that we go know the severity of the educational system.
It sounds like contradictions right there.
Yeah, it sounds because that is what
because no, here's the point, Mr. Kabia. Here's the point, Mr. Kabia. And it's deliberate because at some point it was like the president did not hire professionals. And in the middle, you agreed that he hired professionals and you mentioned one name, Timbo, who you acknowledge is a professional. And now you're saying again, hire professionals. Which is which?
Well, let clear you on that point. You not go hire somebody when you already know the inside. What thing I mean by that, before the president implements the free quality education, you could have done your own assignment first. You not go take Alpha Timbo, you not go take David Shenge, you not go take professional. You can't hire enough for do the work while you are already in power, while you don't already implement the project, without even understanding what you're getting into. I could have loved the president to wait 2 years. 2018, 2019, 2020, you launched the program. By then, you could have been sufficient enough for understand how much money you need, how much manpower you need, how much challenges are there, how much you need. The centerpiece of this free quality education are the teachers. They are poorly trained. Teachers are poorly trained. They are poorly paid. And so what you see, there's a lot of sabotage. Because if the teacher, if they make a pamphlet for make you survive with your family, and then you come, you stop that, what do you go do? You go sabotage this.
Okay, Mr. Kabia, I need for shift gear a bit, but before I shift the gear, let me tell you that I absolutely agree with you because again, we are talking about policy. And the reason why I absolutely agree with you, the information where you gather, where you collect, the data now in the inform the way how you go before with the thing. So if you try to implement something before you don't do all of that, it's tantamount, to failure. But we can tend for forgive the president because he saw like an urgency of a now We're not to excuse, by the way, and decide for go ahead with them, and hence the teething problem where some people like can say, oh no, this and that, yeah, now this problem, a minor problem. No, because the data na in need for inform the way how you cover the policy going before, and na in you just articulate so. And as a policy person, 100% agree with you. So like somebody say, I think that Mr. Almami Kamara saying at the chat room, we need an overhaul policy, an entire overhaul policy for let this change take effect. So thank you very much for that. And let me move on. I want to talk about police brutality. I want to touch on police brutality. Police brutality not new in our country, let's be clear. But sometimes you see the temperature rise at significant times now the transition of a country from one state to the other. And we see a lot of this don't happen. We can go along and say them. And in terms of what we will talk about, criticism, TIQE, TIC, these are the things, Mr. Kabia. We see waiting happen at Ahmadiyya School. A long time people for these things. We see waiting happen along the street. And these are not new. We see waiting happen at APC office. So sometimes you get condemned only because of exercising your civic duty, identifying what the problems are. So hopefully una can find solution. Because what may happen at the party office was heavy-handed police tactic, which people like we condemn. And that's what we were saying. This is heavy police-handed tactic. We they pay police money, and there's no need for go brutalize the citizen. It's just the wrong division. So I want to talk about police brutality, Mr. Kabia. You then at the gun. Paint a picture for we. How you see the police, how the police they operate, or if I'm right in talking about the rise of police brutality.
The Sierra Leone police is heavily politicized, and this now a very serious problem since we get self-determination. With Sierra Leone police force, it get in lost track. If I say it lost track during the time of the Sheki era. Sheikh Stephen did a very poor job on that. He probably could have done a lot of good jobs somewhere, but some of the criticisms and way are heavily they criticize the Sheikh Stephen era. Now the way we handle the law enforcement agencies across the country, the military, the police, other, law enforcement agencies, them, they not been do a thorough job. And that legacy they now they continue for hunt the country day by day. You see, when you get a police force, I was in the United States. The United States gets serious challenges on the same, problem. The only thing then gets a different way because of, then you under is racism. We now is politicization. But until we try to detach the police from politics, how should we do that? Yeah. If you appoint the police inspector general, a president of this country, now appoint the police inspector general, in the first place, you don't create a problem of loyalty. So if we not do, Parliament not step up, for make them try for understand, say, the urgency of creating a sound police system where not partisan in any shape or form, we go continue for face the same problem.
So again, Mr. Kabia, hold your thoughts right there because you raised quite an important point, and I want to let you talk on now for explain to Fambolem. You mentioned Parliament, and at some point we all been believing this Parliament, somehow. This platform don't speak to several parliamentarians, both in camera and in public. And even from a parliamentary perspective, as they talk about MPs, there are serious concerns expressed by Parliament of the rise of tyranny, nepotism, intimidation to parliamentarians, even when they travel for go to work and after work. The reason why I pause you there, I don't know whether you are aware of this, because sometimes we can depend on them people there, just like you mentioned. Bio themselves get their own wahala, their own jekute.
Well, the problem is, I've been talking to Ibrahim when the Secretary General for CAL, the Accountability and Rule of Law, where they do an investigation, try for make them do something on the constitution of the land. You see, these are some of the things that what we say the 1990 constitution need for, we need for do something about it. Because this constitution is so cumbersome, is so ambiguous, it not even it represents the nation in any shape or form. We therefore involve some of these things in the constitution of the country so that the certain offices, certain government positions, certain state institutions, not to the president, they do. In as much as the president of this nation get enormous powers, we're bound to face some of these challenges in the police force. The problem here is the police in our country are under the beck and call of the sitting president of the day.
So what needs to happen then, Mr. Kabia? Because it seems like there's a back and forth in this conversation. The president of the country.
Need for happen, now I tell you, we need for change the constitution. So
yeah, but hold on, Mr. Kabia. I think there's a general consensus, as much as I know, that the constitution needs for change. And in fact, one of the manifesto promises of this current president is he will change that constitution in some way. He did promise that because there are articles in that constitution which needs changing, and he promised that. The idea here again, Mr. Kabia, I want to put this to you, that there is a constitutional document where laid down a review by the late Justice Kawan, may his soul rest in peace. The reason, as we understand it from the outside, why it wasn't touched by Koroma and potentially by Julius Maada Bio will be, if you touch them, you curtail your own power then down. Do you believe that these people are going to touch this constitution, especially if you know about the power dynamics?
Well, now you come to my point. These are some of the things they say. I feel so disappointed with President Bio. Because President Bio could have been, if anybody for this country, where for understand the necessity or the urgency for make this country get it right, President Bio could have been the person. Because I remember in 1991, these are the guys who are going to bullshit for changing the system. He was 27 years by then. When they go to Bush, they fight with AK-47, Roti AK-47. So President Bio could be the guy, could have been the guy who is supposed to come and change most of these things where they want this country day by day. Let me tell you something. The politicization of the police force is just one. Our police force in this country is poorly trained. That is another dilemma. They are poorly trained. Sometimes they don't even know their constitutional right, their constitutional function.
hang on there. You make 2 or 3 points. I want you. Oh, okay, go on. Sorry, go on. But you make 2 or 3 points. Let's just take notes while you talk. I need to bring that back to you.
It's a systemic failure, and I am so disappointed with President Bio because if President Bio refused for change the constitution, for allow the constitution for function in the interest of the country, not in the interest of the president. That is, it's a big disappointment because our own problem here is with the police force, like I try to see, it's not just, not just politicized, but it also, poorly trained. And because of them problems they don't know, look what happened at Jewish. Now, Hastings. This is a land dispute. We get for do with the, people Hastings. Then call on the police. Whether the police, I don't know whether they be decide. The other side, they decide and come. What thing happened at the end of the day? They ended up shoot the other man and they kill him. That issue there, it creates so many problems. And up to today, in fact, the police don't go under Panaberi Day up to 5 times for go even appeal with the family of the deceased man. How can a police force?
Okay, Mr. Kabia, many thanks. Fambulem, very, very interesting conversation. I mean, this is not the first time the brother they appear on the channel, but the conversation is so much interesting. I'm enjoying it myself, and it's a learning curve for me. So I bring this to now today, the 30th of July 2021. We've got the Kabia factor, a man waking, analyze, and offer criticism as we try to deal with the subject matter and throw them out there to the general public, and we're having this conversation, and we are quickly running out of time. We get 1 or 2, 3 more things for cover, but I still get a few questions, for you on the few things that you said. A will be to talk about kind of police brutality and the need for a reform and who don't politicize the police force and how the police force need for be depoliticized. But every time we talk about this, Mr. Kabia, we always go back into history. Hence why it's so relevant to this platform where we call it then and now, today, and going forward. So we talk about Pakaba of blessed memory, but there still seem to be many contradictions. And the reason why I say this, Mr. Kabia, is after the war, so rotting or during the war was the core of the society that there was a necessity for change, a complete overhaul. And we had this overhaul, we will see. Thousands, if not millions of dollars were poured into projects, the revamping of the police force, the entire governance structure system. A foreign police director or inspector general in person of Mr. Keith Bidul, the rewriting of the police manual, tactics, and what have you, was done. Are we saying, Mr. Kabia, and this is a direct question to you, based on the analysis that I will just give you, that they ask again for a different kind of analytical moment and rejigging of a police force because they've fallen into bad books again and it's rotting. Do we have to go that same way that we went 25, 26 years ago?
Well, there's a serious challenge right now on the police force. That I can tell you for free. There's a serious challenge. You see, the problem is, my brother, I can tell you it's sad because we not get, I can say, a leader, we get vision for a change. If you don't have, if the politics, if the president in power, now Sierra Leone, not they create the change, they ignite the change, it will be difficult to get the change. Now we see Naya, you go pour all the money, international community don't pour.
Mr. Kabia, you need to bring your camera down, you don't cut your face in half. Yeah, yes. So people can go see you. Okay, that's better, sir. Yeah, yes. That's all right.
So the serious challenge in Aya, we don't bring Tijankaba. He did a good job because he inherited. I can tell you, Tijankaba inherited a very serious challenge than any other sitting president in our history. But he managed to do some changes in the system. We expect that particular build-up will take place during the time of Ernest Bai Koroma. Ernest Koroma not do much for make it do a systemic change on the police force. He not do much. These are some of the challenges the way he left. He not do much. In fact, what you will see during the new era, we are going back to the Sheikh Stephen era, politicizing the force during the young era. And that was a big disappointment. And I believe, that some of the things that where the people then punish APC for that.
Are you saying that the late Tijankaba did not politicize the force? Of course, he was going through
Tijankaba, in a way, he was not. You see, this is, I can tell you, SLPP is a new political party to anybody when are 40 years. In a way.
Explain that, please. BSF need to understand. What do you mean?
I can tell you, the Tuma guys will be there on a colonial rule. Tijankaba in your own time will be there on a war and the United Nations and the ECOWAS. So most of the decisions are not taken from the government of the day without consultation with the ECOWAS or United Nations. So I can tell you, the Kabia regime was not a total government by itself, where they operate on their own without consultation or without being the influence of a major power. This is the first time SLPP take, the mantle of power, without being under no, foreign power. This is the first time. So we expect President Bio for being the messiah, for bringing this change what we need now. You see, these are some of the things there. So Tijan Kabia himself, in young administration, I would say he was elected, democratically elected, but he not get the mandate for me to govern without consultation.
Okay, Mr. Kabia, many thanks for that. Fambul, and that was a visit with a date in history. And I really, really appreciate this conversation tonight. And when I say it's a learning process for me, I do mean it. I kind of feel humble. But I want to take up on one of the things where the brother say, regarding democracy. That's what we're talking about here. The rule of law, the right for criticize, for be a critique, your civic responsibility. But when you do them, you get for doing with a degree of responsibility. Are you looking at both sides of the coin and trying to arrive at some kind of solution perspective which you can propose, propagate to those that are responsible? This is the question. But here is what one great philosopher, if not the greatest philosopher of all time, than Aristotle say, that democracy is a far better route to the other alternative. Then, waiting at the other alternative, then we talk about tyranny. We talk about a terrifying position in our country in which you go see them beat people in a street or one set of people that's they in control of things. But you want democracy which involves every fabric of society they contribute so that the wheels of democracy they turn. Mr. Kabia, make this analogy because I want to ask you exactly, you did not gone in terms of democracy, what are you witnessing? Has it got any identification with what I say that there's a total involvement of people, or it's just terrifying and it's the rise of nepotism and tyranny?
This government, one of the criticism I get about this government is dividing the nation. Sierra Leone is the most divided country today than ever before. I can tell you, I was not alive, or I was very young during the time of Sabotage Magai. But what thing I see President Bio, na a reincarnation of Sabotage Magai. In principles of divide and rule, I can see and I have very clearly. Sierra Leone is the most divided country today. I can give you that free. And because the president, I don't know whether he is out of fear when he can have power, or out of lack of trust because of, how he perceive APC or how he perceive the supporters there. Now, when you look at Sierra Leone today, Sierra Leone is heavily divided across party lines. Now we get the locals. Then because of Samura, the locals feel demonized by this regime. And when you look at the Limbas, because of the association with the APC, they feel demonized by this administration. And because President Bio don't tell you, see, he not hire somebody we not trust. And then the people in where they support APC or where they support, Anes by Kuruma, they are predominantly Northerners, the Timinis, the Limbas, the locals for Samura, and now the Creoles. Now, because of that, you don't find out, see, the country don't become extremely divided. You get the people where they side SLPP, predominantly Mendes, and the one the way they side, APC. So that division, that cleavage.
So we go counter that to the conclusion of the show because we are quickly running out of time. And this very, very interesting debate, Fambulem, today, the 30th of July, 2021. This is not the Then and Now Media platform. They come to bring you a very special guest for the first time on the platform, but I don't believe it's the last because Then and Now is a little bit contagious. Once you come the first time, you always want to come the second time. But for today, we get the man we then call the Kabia factor, Mr. Kabia. We can do them powerful analysis them on social media. Mr. Kabia is the point. There are a few things that we agree say we will talk about, and this is not COVID-19. And on the basis of policy-wise, COVID-19, do you think it's a success or is a failure?
Well, COVID-19, in a way, is a blessing. COVID-19 don't bring a lot of resources. I can tell you, we might have people that we don't die, you know, as a result of the COVID-19. But I believe, I therefore give kudos to the president in early intervention. That I will give you for free. The president in early intervention, it been save a lot of time, it been save money, and save lives. So those are some of the things that I really agree with the president on in timely intervention. He put modalities in place, he identified the problem, and he go ahead for provide the necessary precaution, you know, the necessary sensitization, the necessary manpower, so that then we will tackle this, you know, disease headlong, you know, prior to even the disease they can have. Even when the president be just here, so some of the things that were give kudos to the president now in time of in early intervention, that I will tell you for free. But again, along the line, as things continue for get to where we are now, we see a lot of challenges. And we see a lot of, because of the challenge, there's mistrust. You see, on the side of the people begin to even feel, this thing is not real. Based on watching, would they see the president intimidate handle the COVID-19. You know, but along the line, I can tell you the international community don't do a fantastic job now in providing the necessary support, particularly China. China now one of the countries where I not say for other countries they more or what people know about them, but China now a big blessing as Sierra Leone today, because I remember even with the Ebola, China was the first country where intervened. You know,
so at least not just because of time, I make back a jump inside because 1 or 2, 3 years they will need for cover. So at least there's a plus or feather on the cap of the government of Sierra Leone.
Yes.
At least then get something right in terms of this particular
in terms
issue.
of the implementation, the early intervention, you know, and also
implementation.
The implementation. Yes.
Implementation and early intervention. Many thanks for that. And ladies and gentlemen, we hear facts from the ground. The man who they talk to today on the ground, and he does a huge number of analysis. And I go admonish Fambulen for their Fambulen listen. Today, we come to una from the Den and Now platform, and Mina una host and Prince Emil Koma. Tomorrow, and not forget, Minkailu Koroma will be on the program. I repeat, Minkailu Koroma of the People's Congress will be on the program live. They go to talk to Supermed on the program. And to know say the national conversation they on for the heart and soul of the country, and a part and parcel of what we do right here now, the Kabia factor. Mr. Kabia, there is another one, sir. The Lungi Bridge. Is it something that we're going to see now, anytime you're under this administration? What's your take?
The Lungi Bridge, I think the president, I don't know whether, I'm not too sure. I know they see the symptom. The Lungi Bridge, I know it will be a reality, you know, this time soon. Probably the idea is there. But I don't believe, based on the challenges on the economy right now, I can tell you the Sierra Leone economy, they're in a physical cliff.
Wait, say a physical cliff. You are a man of many words. And here, clarify for me quickly, a physical cliff. That sounds very interesting.
Cliff is like, you know what's in a cliff.
Yeah. I mean, is it going over or that's dangerous? That's scary.
So the economy is going over. We are almost in the tipping. It's like we are like this now, flying, going to the
wow,
beach.
Mr. Kabia, that's really scary.
So I don't believe this and some of the criticisms also where that is steps them wait and take, to ameliorate the situation. You see, when you come with a very serious project, you tell the nation you inherited the worst economy, and you come with so many projects where, you know, it is very difficult to achieve them project, and they, you know, and then there is no money, you know, you run into serious problems.
So are these projects, again, this is quite important for the Sierra Leonean psyche or the mindset for understand. Are these projects, you know, you're out of good faith, or it's just politics? You just did politics.
Yeah, like
because for let you identify and articulate a project.
The longer bridge, I think, is politics. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, apart from the Lungi Bridge, because largely I think there is a school of thought that is developing around that Lungi Bridge that is largely, you know, kind of political, because just like you say, people have sat down and reflect on what the economy is, what are the priority, what are we national currency day, what are the partnership, what are the essence, what are the benefits as opposed to the expenditure, and it just doesn't match. There's a kind of mismatch there. We all might be proven wrong, but if we are proven wrong, this is the thing. If we are proven wrong, it's a plus for the nation. And who are us? We're just part of the nation. So the larger body benefits, if not everybody. So you'll go on and prove us wrong or right. Mr. Kabia, on the issue of corruption. The fight against corruption has been ongoing for quite a number of years now, 3 years into the SLPP government. From you high chair, Usa, you sit down with your bully pulpit, Usa, you can sit down and make them powerful analysis there. What's your take? What's your analysis on this corruption? What is it?
I think
how is it? How is it doing? Yes, sir.
This administration not sincere enough. I don't see a lot of insincerity on the side of this Bio administration in fighting against corruption. I see the whole idea of Bio administration talking about corruption is selective. Naya, it's about trying to destroy the financial machine of APC. I think Nadata the Naya. It's about going after these guys with them believe and Esfuma get money, you know, APC get money. It's about you know, as he say, it's about paying back. Trying, like what you say, destroy the financial machine of the APC. And I believe there is not more sincerity. I believe the idea of fighting corruption is a good idea, because for far too long, corruption has been a canker worm into our own, you know, development now this country for far too long. So talking about it, it's a laudable idea. But when I look at the implementation of this current regime in fighting, you know, pursuing education, I think the president is not sincere to the nation.
Okay, that's quite a strong criticism there, and you not mince your word, but you also back them up, because we can go back and look. Okay, so therefore that brings me to the Africanist press and the Chernobyl situation. 1 minute, if you will, probably for even 45 seconds. What are your view about the Africanist press and the way how they take the challenge?
The fact is, no serious government official no come and challenge the Africanist press findings. And remind you, it's not just Africanist press. When the perception survey came out back in 2019, it was Center for Accountability and Rule of Law and Defeat, when I development oversee, when I purchased
and changed them recently. Yeah, that's what they were.
Yeah, so the Africanist press, I don't know why the focus is on them. Probably in good detail. That's why, in fact, the administration is going after him or the whole press itself. But I can tell you there are so many findings, other groups like a Center for Accountability and Rule of Law in partnership with Defeat. Now they first bring this perception survey where the finance in Parliament is corrupt. There is massive corruption in Parliament. There is massive corruption in the office of the president. Remember, the office of the president, you know, gets so many offices embedded in that office. The office of the chief minister is part of that. The office of the first lady is part of that. So you have other offices were embedded to the office of the president. So in fact, when that perception survey became, in fact, they even include the police. Say the police is highly corrupt. So it was not Africanist president press that just brought about that findings.
The perception survey be identified the three arms of government. And this is the thing, the irony. The three arms of government as corrupt. And everything else can for corroborate them. But one thing else I want to bring to you, Mr. Kabia, is, of course, you mentioned the Africanist press and how then, you try for almost slaughter the guy if they will, physically. But not only him, but the ASSL, the Auditor General in reporting, this is the government report. They threw the woman under the bus and threw away everything at them because why identify things. What's your view quickly about this, please?
These are some of the things that we at the tell President Bio, the Bio administration not sincere in fighting this corruption. I establish that premise first before even they go in detail. You see, the fight against corruption, as far as me know, as far as I understand, the Bio administration not do justice to even the so-called fight itself and not do justice to the Sierra Leonean people. I feel they are very insincere in the first place, and they are not honest about it, and they are not even ready to fight corruption. Because when we look at the rice saga, when we look at how the 49,000 bags of rice being surreptitiously being lost at the Ministry of Education, how they handle that. At the end of the day, when they bring the findings, and get for final see the minister not guilty, they're not people. Now 86 bag of rice. Now they end up according to ACC.
Okay.
Find out.
That's quite. That second point, and also, okay, we guess frozen. Maybe he go on freeze. Hopefully he does. But here's the point: he's making clarity. He's setting the precedent. And is creating this narrative and talking about methodology, the things they want to talk about, especially in the formation of policy and then the implementation of policy. There has to be the statistics, the data that informs the narrative on how to carve out them politics there or policies. This is exactly what I try to talk about, and I'm very thankful for my guest who is frozen at the moment. So I've been talk about Aristotle, how Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of our time, talk about how democracy is a far better cry than other of government. So we go end the program soon because we even don't lost we guest. Okay, so people waiting a need for due now for understand the time and the situation that they are in. Fambule, I repeat again, we will go cut this particular segment and post them out so that it will reach the thousands and the thousands. Waiting the need for do is the need for mobilize. People need for mobilize and organize. When you mobilize and organize, you become one strong entity, one strong force, one force that those in authority will have to deal with. And therefore listen to you, which you say. In most cases, you become this powerful block that when you demand something, you're not asking now. Remember, there is a difference between demand and request. Now with the demand, because while we are organized, we know say we are more powerful and lethal force. So people they need for mobilize and organize, for let them make democracy for succeed. It's not born out of selfish reason, just for make sure say democracy, which we are all the guarantors of and for, and that's what we're talking about, succeeds. So therefore, we for mobilize and organize with self. And this not thing when they happen by itself. Not a thing when they happen by itself. It need people for organize. It's not spontaneous that because some minds are reading, so no. It doesn't work that way. People have to physically, tangibly organize and mobilize. That's what it is. That's what it has been. That's what it will always be. We need people then for, provide leadership in that democracy. Not necessarily get for big possible big past you, not just possible get the inspiration. We need for understand all the contradictions there, and there are very many of them. Tyrants and dictators then look at the legitimacy or legitimize the illegitimacy. This is what tyrants do. And we the people must continue to resist this tyranny because it is possible. But sometimes it comes at a high price. But if we should relent, then what happens is those whose lives are taken lie in torment. And then it becomes a problem. Fambule, this is important. The conversation almost they come to an end. I just want to say a few things, okay? So when you create a political court, Because that happens. Let's say, for example, I'm in power. I can create a political cult. A political cult not necessarily for be one tribe, but most likely it can be one tribe. Because now they are believe in, now they are know, now them are trust. So they are a political cult in people and way I believe in. But in the other sense, these people are relevant because the people get the news. Remember, Bob Marley said you can continue for fool some people sometimes, but you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot continue for fool all the people all of the time.
I don't come back.
It doesn't work. Yeah, Mr. Kabia, I get you. I'll come to you for close the program. I mean, just carry on. So what we do know is that media, especially social media, is a critical tool that has helped us in many ways for government and for identify the problems, because long before it happen, we can even, premeditate, if you like, things that are going to happen. Because I know say X not like Y, and the reason why X not like Y because of Z. So all X get for do for let Y react, now for promote the values of C, because X doesn't like it and definitely is going to react. And we've caught most of them reacting. We haven't taken any serious police action against them. No, we haven't. And because, again, it's a matter of community, and hopefully we go learn that the things that bind us together are far greater than those that divide us. Mr. Kabia, one full wrap-up for you. You got the floor.
Okay. The picture on the show.
Yes, now because you're responsible, sir, like I've been telling you earlier on, but you don't need for log off again. Just look now your gadgets where you watch the program with. It will give you option, so maybe in a slide, and you just need for pull or tap your video icon, and you should be able to show, sir.
Okay, well,
yeah, you're going to talk. Remember, yes. You can talk while you do the same thing. They look for the options.
You see, like what you have been saying, the fight against corruption. I don't see the president and the administration generally look sincere. They're not sincere at all when it comes to the fight against corruption. I can tell you for free, there are serious challenges in Sierra Leone. There are serious challenges. I don't feel say we are ready as a people. When you look at the nature of Sierra Leoneans themselves, I don't feel say the Sierra Leonean people are ready for a change. This is not just about politics. I
was going to ask you that because that's serious. Since you own it,
yes,
please carry on.
Yes, because these are some of the things that you are there in a place where sometimes when you look at people and we they na them pan body them. One time I meet somebody, a Nike taker. He gets 6 picking them. And I meet some back pambele and I ask her, I say, now when I get this land, they say no. Then I caretaker. Now I say, okay. So why they continue for born no more? He say na God gear. As I tell you today, that woman don't get almost 7 picking them. And the man will get the land, don't come build na the land. Now don't ask them out of the land. This is a serious challenge. So some of the things them way Sierra Leoneans them, and this is not just an example of the things them way, I tell you Sierra Leoneans are not ready for make we solve our own problems. We have serious problem, not to just the political side. People in this country that are doing so many things them wrong, and sometimes then things and the way they do way wrong, they come back and haunt them. Some people go tell you now because the political will not they. Now it make people that they do them things then they. But if the political will not they, we foresee responsibility on the side of the people. Because when you see responsibility on the side of the people, if the government falls short, the people will be able to hold the government accountable. But if the people know they do things correct, even on their own livelihood, you go find out say they not get the ability for make them able to hold the government accountable. And the other thing again, we may see if somebody they benefit now a particular regime, even when say things are not going the right way, go even turn and support, the move as we see other countries there. Even when they say, things are going wrong, then they continue for support blindly. And these are some of the challenges that we'll get in Sierra Leone. Wrong na wrong. An office say, Sierra Leoneans are supposed for support something way wrong. And when you do that, you don't put the politician now the continuity road for say, okay, well, what you do so the people approve. Now, some of the challenges they will get now make politicians them not accountable to the people, and they are not responsible to the people.
Okay, okay, Mr. Kabia. You see, the program so interesting and so important that time goes without you realizing it. And I believe you're a man of many talking, and you can carry on and on. So do I. I'll ask you this question, and I want a quick answer because we need to wrap up with it within the next answer. Corruption, Francis Ben Kaifala, do you think is going the right way? I know I asked something around that. There's a reason why I bring a comeback. Well,
Francis Ben Kaifala, you see, is the same politics. It might they talk about it. You go on social media, they recognize them, but when you come at the ground, you look at what they happen at the ground. We just believe, say, yes, you don't do. If I give a mark, I could tell you, say, it is between 30 to 40%. That I can tell you.
Okay.
But he don't do a good job. No, maybe not. Get serious challenges. And is it doing it? Is it nationalistic? I feel say there is some amount of partisan here. There is some amount of politics in what he do. So he not get them right yet. If I can tell you, should I make a tell you, say, if me the rate he did between 30 to 40%. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I just want to ask some short question as we come to the end. Do you think Anticorruption has hijacked the APC party?
Yes, the APC they in serious problem. Now then the CMC again money and it's not the financial hub. And apart from that, the CRC get experience, left the party now. The party now will get the resources where they need for making the challenge 2023. You know, hijack the party per se, but what you mean the see now, it gets popularity. I can tell you today, if you put two boxes now, Maada Bio 1 and Eskruma 1, I can tell you and Eskruma they win hands down. Now a popular figure in a saloon, it goes without saying it. And okay, I want somebody to tell you, and Eskruma is still a popular figure in a saloon. Not so just in political grounds. Even when I travel in Kenya, even some, hardline supporters of SLPP, they agree, say, Anticorruption na a popular figure. And I can tell you for that.
Okay, yes. Mr. Kabia, Pandemba Road?
Well, Pandemba Road, in fact, that prison, they need for pull another side. You don't become, like what you say no more, outlive the usefulness in that area. It is smell that area there, it is suffocate people them, and when they get serious challenges like political prisoners, the people when are the neighbors in that area, then they suffer tremendously. I believe say in these modern times, we need to take that particular prison there at the center of the city. It don't become useful there. It don't become a problem to the people, the neighborhood, the excrement. They just say, sorry for that language, but it is suffocate that area there. They know they take care of the area. It smells so bad. So I believe say Pandemba Road need for left that area there, now. Because one, like I tell you, a serious challenge for the neighbor, they wouldn't did it. It pollute the area. It make the area very, very much toxic for even smell around that area. Where you reach in that area, my brother, you get for all your nose. And that's nothing way not good for the health. So I believe say Pandemba Road need for Komoyanda. And second thing, I believe say, the way they handle the prisoners them. That's another very big challenge. The prison system in Sierra Leone is in a dilapidated condition. A prisoner, but not all prisoners guilty of the crime where they say they are alleged they commit. So you not go vindicate them or go destroy them where you not get the evidence. So I believe say prison system need, serious upgrade.
Okay, Mr. Kabia, on a final note, 2023, we expect elections. What's the position from your perspective in terms of going forward on elections from the All People's Congress and from the government? Has the government got a story for tell the people on the past 3 years, 4 years of rule, like where normal, people can do? And what's the APC strategy? What's going on? Are they just disruptors in chief? Make sure say the other government not succeed, and as a consequence, by default, the people don't succeed. What's going on, sir?
The problem here is on the side of the government. The SLPP itself gets a lot of cleavages. And I believe, say, there is a problem. When problem they happen at SLPP, difficult for solve than when something they happen at APC. APC, then very quick for come together in terms of facing, when they get crisis, thinking very good, for come together and face the challenge way they pandemic, and very good for that. SLPP, when they get a challenge, it's very difficult for making them come together. Now it make them lost elections. And I can see by now the approval rating of the president and SLPP, they go down. When President Bio assumed power, in approval rating, been there about 73%. Now, when we check the perception, say the Kabia factor don't go to 43%. That's a very serious challenge. And who side this come out now the economy, the way handle the economy? People are suffering here. So I believe, say, the other challenge, number one, they see like what they see on the side of the opposition right now. But like APC gets a tradition for solve the problem quickly, for face the challenge than SLPP. And then the other thing again, we are the try for look at the international community need to pay attention, particularly ECOWAS. And they sense some kind of violence during the election on the fact that the government know they do well and they want to stay in power. And maybe they would tend for use the barrel of the gun for make them intimidate or rig the elections. I see that. But that being said, we need the intervention of the international community like ECOWAS for put a very serious, machinery during the election for forestall any kind of violence we go erupt as a result of, the poor kind of governance we see right now. And the other thing again, not to just ECOWAS, even United Nations need for pay attention on the ground. I think, say, the economy need a serious boost for make the people able to get back on their legs, on their feet. The money where they seem to come, they trickle down to the problems the way, the ordinary man they face right now, such as the economy, And again, the other thing again, where I tell you, the president need for focus on stop fighting APC. APC now opposition. I believe, say, President Bio need for act as a president, as a leader of Sierra Leone, not as a political party. You are the president of Sierra Leone.
Okay, yes. Mr. Kabia, many thanks. This program need for come to an end now. You made many brilliant points, and this program can go on and on and on. But we've gone far-fetched into the program, of course, 20 minutes late. So we try for make up for that. Final thoughts, Mr. Kabia. Again, it goes back to 2023, which is an analysis. If you make a conviction or verdict of a government, going all the way back where they started from as to where they are. I know you talk about then come and criticize the other side and say a lot of rubbish things, and government not supposed to be so. Not to everything you need for agree with what you pick up from your predecessor. But there are things definitely that you're going to acknowledge and embrace and take and go forward. But my understanding is this government never did any of that. It was always about victimizing and being, the one isolated. But back to 2023, even though you don't develop the idea there as to what it looks like, but in a raw fashion, what do you think?
Well, the government in power gets serious challenge. I believe, say, in the next 2 years or maybe 1.5, they're not going to be able to fix the economy. And because they're not going to be able to fix this economy, that will definitely impact them negatively. Because I can tell you for now, the economy need urgent, treatment. So I believe, say 2023, APC stand a big chance for comeback.
But Mr. Kabia, waste before we a possible scenario. You see, this is what exactly I'm trying to paint to you, because it's not going to be easy. In any case, no president wants to be a one-time president. Historically, it's so bad, it's so terrible that you can do everything within your means, and you get the state resources, the state machinery for do just that. It might not work, because once people power are determined, they can overcome all of those obstacles. But on the reverse, what again do you think? Do you think such things are being machinated in the background? Is it going to be tough? Is it going to be risky? Is it going to cost lives?
When you look at right now, watching he try for position himself, electing NEC officials. When you look at in fact, when I talk to the Campaign for Good Governance and CAL, Center for Accountability and Rule of Law, they don't even come out strongly and condemn the president on the appointment of the Western area.
The Western chair lady for NEC.
That is wrong.
Zainab Mosiri. So we predict at this platform, say, months before the election, say, this is the woman that they're going to get rid of Miata French and put there. And it turned out for me too. So we get a tip they will get for player.
When you look at the present, the way this administration position itself for 2023, they are doing the wrong thing, because they feel there is a serious trouble on the side of winning this election. And so what did they try for do? They want beat the drum before they get into that, by positioning itself, appointing certain people on key areas, strategic areas, where they feel they're vulnerable. So, but that again, an office they're supposed to.
Mr. Kabia, we get 2 minutes. We get 2 minutes, sir.
So yes, so I wrap up by saying that I just believe the president need to reverse all that. Try for put modalities in place for tackle the economy. If you tackle the economy prior to 2023, there would be a chance. But if not, it's going to be a serious challenge.
What a good way for end the show. That's a very, very good way for end the show. Mr. Kabia don't analyze them very thoroughly. Kabia of the Kabia factor, very first time on it then and now, but definitely not the last time. And we'll post the video out shortly. If you check YouTube, you will see the revised version, but we'll send cut out 1 and 5 minutes. Let everybody, especially if you didn't have places then we challenge economically for buy data and etc. So at least you two will be part of the conversation. There is many more to talk about. We'll not even do a quarter of what you want to talk about. But this is not the first time. I definitely believe this is going to be your last time, Mr. Kabia.
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir, for that public commitment, here to the rule of law, to the rule of justice, to being a patriot and holding up to your civic responsibility. And Famul, this now civic responsibility is quite a necessity. We have to. It's imperative on our part for play we own parts in our society. Not everybody go agree with we. Hence why during this program today we decide for do the topic, the critique as in TIC, the critique as in QUE, and being critical or criticism as how for understand the different connotation of them words they are and what it means. So they look at things holistically. And the guest has proven himself to be very much on point. Remember that if you create a political cult, you can't go back on it. You see, if you can feel it, then Lunge Bridge is far, far away from a 5 million project, which is the bakery, and then the extension, and many others to come. Check out the platform tomorrow. Supermed Mohammed Kamara will be on the platform with none other but the APC's Minkailo Koroma, lifting the conversation to another end. Remember, other than now, we treat information and bring people in together with care and responsibility. We try for reimagine so that when we have this chat, we we can make a difference. Many, many thanks, Mr. Kabia. I look forward to talk to you shortly again, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You are most welcome, sir, and I will talk to you shortly.
Thanks.
Okay, and that would all effectively come to the end of the program, and we want to tell we get very much, many thanks from Freetown, despite constraints from the very beginning, but he stayed the cause, and I'm sure most people will have heard him, and thousands more will get to hear him. Let me just close with a theme song, and then effectively, that is the end of the program. Okay, at the then and now. Thank you so much, Fambulen, for tuning in. Right, family, and that's it. That's the end of tonight's program. Not forget for tuning in again. This same dial. Don't touch the dial. Supermed will be here with Min Kailo Koroma. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.